There are many ways to enhance the financial well-being of the city of Newport News, and they were sent, pick one of these and describe specifically what you would do as a member on city council to promote this item. The choices were pretty good. They were like job creation, economic development, tax creation, reduction, or spending, accountability of funds used in the budget, or other. So.
You know, for me, that was an important question to look at. You know, not just because of the money that the city is let's be honest, wasting, and not actually spending it properly in areas where it should be, whether it's the schools or whether it's the police or whether it's the anything around here. But for me, it's about looking at the budget and cutting and where we need to cut. I mean, there's a lot of kind of waste in the city that needs to not be there. And we need to kind of retool it. And what I would really like to see done is I'd like to see a line-by-line look at the budget and look at everywhere we can cut and where we can use that money more efficiently, not just in promoting the schools, not just in promoting tourism, not just promoting emergency services, but also promoting the entire city itself. And it's one of those things that has to be done. I'm not for increasing taxes. That's not something I would ever take off the table, but it's also not something I think needs to be done right now. I think there's a lot of money that we have in budget. Even the current fight that just happened between school board and city council about what money was there, wasn't there, it was really about kind of just the idea of like where money was being put by the school board, by the council, and that's part of a miscommunication. The council has not been very open with communicating with everybody else as far as bringing information in, bringing people in, making it more aware. That's also about kind of really looking at where we need to cut and where we need to look at things that we don't need to be spending money on in the city too. I mean, you know, we spend millions and millions of dollars in things like in Tech Center, but Tech Center cannibalized City Center cannibalized Jefferson Commons. These are areas that, why did we go this direction? There are other directions the city can go, and that's what I want to look for.
We're still gonna go this way, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. So I chose accountability. I'm not confident that we're doing the best job eliminating waste, similar to what Mr. Reed has said. An example is serving on as vice chair for the Newport News Human Rights Commission. If you look at the budget and see the funds that are allocated to us, you will see that it goes to the it says that it goes to the Human Rights Commission. So number one is transparency and being honest on where the funds are actually going. The money doesn't come to the Human Rights Commission, it goes to HR Cap. It goes to the Hampton Roads Community Action Program. And so for transparency purposes, I think it's important that we specifically put where the funds are going so that citizens know, okay, well, if we come to the Human Rights Commission, well, where's money? Well, it doesn't come to us, it comes to HR Cap. So just being completely honest about that and just going line by line and just making sure that we have measurables in place to ensure every single dollar that's being allocated towards whether it's another commission, because if I know what's happening to the Human Rights Commission as far as the transparency issue, I'm wondering about other nonprofits that are getting money. I'm wondering about other commissions that are getting money. Should they really be getting those funds? Because honestly speaking, for the commission, I don't think that those funds that are allocated to us, that we need them. So.
So in a normal business cycle, you probably pick economic development. But unfortunately, we've actually done a poor job of economic development, and we've expanded it well beyond what it should have been. And so because of that, I'm going to choose job creation. I was just with a church yesterday, All Nations Church, and I interviewed them out at Jim's Market because the economic development plan booted them out of an area where they were simply trying to feed the homeless. That's a problem. Job creation in my life has birthed everything else that I've done. It's birthed it. You know, with more jobs, people can start in one area and they can grow in another area, especially for young people, especially for our senior citizens. Senior citizens want to be a viable part of our community as well. Job creation can do that. I went to India, and in India people are making roughly $1 or $2 a day. But they have these phenomenal centers where people are coming in and learning and creating their future because they have great jobs. Jobs of the future is a very real thing. In 10 more years, almost 65% of the jobs today will either not exist or be totally different. A nurse will no longer be physically moving an individual. You know, you'll have a robot doing it. When a patient is sick and they're in the house, the doctor will actually be in the hospital, the patient will be in the house, and the robot will be conducting the surgery in the house, and the patient never leaves the home. We will have drones flying over us, monitoring our plants and our cities to make sure if there's a fire that breaks out, the drone can get there a lot quicker than a fire truck that's stuck in traffic. You know, these are things that are going to change the way that we live our life. And that's just the tip of the spear. Every job is going to be enhanced by technology. We just have to make sure that we do it in a very ethical and a very secure way, but it's going to happen. I'm not saying this, I help clients do this today. They pay our companies a lot of money to help them to get to the next phase and to envision their roadmap. That's our city, that's how I see it. And so the more that we understand that job creation will be the fuel, the driver of those new use cases or business cases for success, the better we're going to be as a city. It's very doable. I hope that you elect me as mayor. I want to do that for you. And I'll say it probably 2 million more times because I really do want you to elect me. So.
Well, the topic I chose is economic development. And the way that I look at economic development is that what we need to be doing right now is we need to be training our young people in high school and in college to start thinking as entrepreneurs. I believe that is going to be the future of our next 100 years of development in business. For too long, we've tended to concentrate and allow companies to get bigger and bigger. I think the wave of the future is going to be smaller and smaller. These days, with technology, you can create an international business out of your bedroom. And I think we're going to see more and more of those things. We're going to see more and more people deciding that they don't want to work a 9-to-5 job or a second shift at a factory. You're going to have business opportunities as an entrepreneur and to be able to work your own hours and fit into your lifestyle better than generations in the past have been able to do. And we need to make it really easy for young people to go into business. We need to have great economic development programs that focus on them. Too often, when I look at economic development programs, they're centered toward middle-aged executives transitioning and not getting young people to think as entrepreneurs. And that's really where the focus needs to be. When you're in high school, when you're in college, you naturally think as an entrepreneur, and you get out of that, and you kind of rediscover it in middle life. I think one of the ways we can do that effectively is to bring in real-world people who have formed their own businesses, start talking to entrepreneurs about what it's really like. A lot of times there's a disconnect between programs where people who study business sometimes think it has to be big and overblown and very expensive and require a lot of money to go into business. When I think of business, I think of a friend of mine, Russell Trish, that I work with in Texas. He was just out of high school and he was working a minimum wage job, and he was pretty tired of it. And he was in a supermarket and he looked down and the floors were dirty. And he talked to the manager and talked him into allowing him to clean his floors. And he went out and bought a buffer. And just a few years later, he had 15 people working for him, and he had contracts all over town. And that's the way that business can create wealth fairly quickly and create jobs fairly quickly. So if you look at those opportunities and you're able to move forward with it, we want to make it as easy as possible for people to do that.
Well, I chose job creation because job creation directly impacts economic development and it actually produces tax revenue. So the question is, once those jobs are created and wealth is built, what do we do with the revenue once it's here in the city? And then I believe that's where I can come in at. As a generalist, it's vital to be able to appropriately, allocate the funds. As an analyst, I look to work with the rest of council so that when revenue comes in, we know how to vote. We know how to prioritize. We know where the money is going. So then it's not a question on if we're overspending, if we're underspending. Those are the aspects that I look to work with council and bring to the table.
Okay, and that's like perfect timing because now it's 9 o'clock. We had a couple questions left over, but our goal was to go until 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So I guess we're back to our meeting, and I do want to thank everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Umbrellas, and we would like to thank everyone who participated.
This is great. Wow. This is like the perfect gift. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I feel better already. I got an umbrella.
As far as business for us, are voting on our board of directors next month. And we also have memberships. Will start next month as well, $50 for a one-year membership. Can't beat that anywhere. And we have donuts and coffee. So remember that. Everybody here is welcome to come back.